There are plenty of bridges connecting Boston and Cambridge, and if you ask any high-tech entrepreneur, there are plenty of trolls, too. Local startups say so-called patent trolls have grown from just a nuisance into a full-blown threat to future innovation. It all starts with an idea.
With Level Up, I can just pay with my phone.
Cambridge-based startup Level Up hopes that idea will grow into a whole new way to purchase goods through your smartphone.
Download the free Level Up app to get started.
But getting started hasn't been so simple for Level Up. That's because the successful startup is fighting off so-called patent trolls, firms that only exist to sue other companies for patent infringement. Now, Level Up founder Seth Prebach is fighting back against what he calls frivolous patent lawsuits. Executives for Hopkinton-based EMC testified in Congress last month that patent trolls are a major problem for the industry.
As a matter of principle, we don't settle frivolous suits, but defending those suits has cost us millions and has caused great disruption of our business, requiring our employees to shift their attention from designing new products and growing the business to sitting in depositions or going to court.
Congress is now considering legal reforms that startups like Level Up hope will level the playing field. And Seth Prebach of Level Up is here. This is outrageous. I'd never heard of it, never heard of the term, but it's like legal extortion. Give me an example of how it happened to you.
Absolutely, and it's definitely exactly that. It's sort of modern highway robbery. One example from Level Up specifically is we were approached by a patent assertion entity, which is the technical term, but sort of patent troll is the more common parlance. And they have a patent on being able to associate text messages with your credit card. Then you swipe your credit card at a terminal and it prints that message on the receipt. Maybe a fun way to send text messages without phones. Not a bad idea, but clearly has nothing to do with Level Up. And what they say is, look, we know this has nothing to do with Level Up, but it'll cost you $1.5 million to prove in the courts that it has nothing to do with you, or you could give us $150,000 right now, and we'll go away sight unseen.
Did you?
No, of course not. It's the financially smart decision, but it's morally backwards. And we're lucky enough to have raised over $50 million. We've got great backers, and they said, hey, the financial right is to just settle and let them walk away, but the moral right is to actually push back, and that's what we've done.
So my understanding is they're not just going after technology companies anymore either. They're going through grocery stores, restaurants. How do they nail them?
So what they do is they'll reach out to almost any company where you have just the barest fabrication of a case. And they make this exact same story, this exact same threat, where they say, it doesn't matter if we're right or wrong. The cost of trying to prove your innocence is so high, and the legal bills are going to be so staggering for your business that you just have to pay us to go away. And they've now done this to thousands and thousands, maybe tens of thousands of companies, and they do it through shell corporations. So it might be the same patent troll suing 10,000 different companies, but they do it through different shells, so you can never really identify who's actually doing what. And
for all you know, they're not even really attorneys. They're just people.
Well, they generally are attorneys, or they've hired attorneys. They've created sort of these, these shell companies, and it's one or two attorneys who've happened into or bought on the cheap some very broad, potentially invalid, but nonetheless approved patents. And they make a business out of extorting, generally speaking, startups who would otherwise use that money to actually grow their business.
All right, I'd like to bring Kyle Osbach, who covers the startup and technology beat for the Boston Business Journal, into the discussion. Well, you said you know a lot about this. What can Congress do to change the culture of this? I mean, how do you put somebody out of business who's, trying to make a buck, whether it's legal or not?
Right. Well, there are a number of things that are being proposed that could help with it. One of the really big ones is that they could require non-operating companies, which is one of the other terms for patent trolls, to have to pay the legal bills of the company that they're suing if they lose in court. So right now, as Seth was saying, most of these cases just end up getting settled because it's much cheaper to just settle them. But if companies knew that they might be able to get their legal bills paid for, they might actually pursue the case. And that could totally change the game here. Patent trolls might realize that it's not actually going to benefit them.
And the trolls might back off and not go to court if they thought. Yeah. So when you refused to pay, did they go away, or are they coming after you?
No, the costs for them to sue are much lower than the cost to defend. So what they generally do is they'll take the case to court. And as you saw from the earlier clip, some of the EMC executives describing that you will eventually win. But it's sort of a very Pyrrhic victory. You win, and you still lose $1.5 million. And in Level Up's case specifically, to date we've spent nearly $1 million defending against what we consider to be totally frivolous lawsuits. We've never lost. But what we could have done with that $1 million is hired 10 additional employees, built out a whole bunch of new product, and really added a lot of value in a much more productive way.
How widespread is this, Kyle?
It's become very widespread. Even just a few years ago, I don't believe it was nearly as prevalent. But right now, about 62% of all patent cases are these patent troll, patent assertion entity cases. And that's double what it was just 2 years ago, according to the White House report that just came out on this. So that's thousands of cases every year. Another study out of BU found that in 2011, about $29 billion was spent by companies just defending against these mostly frivolous patent cases.
And is it one group? I mean, you usually find out that people are in the foreclosure business. It's like one huge entity. Is it one huge entity, or is it little pockets of lawyers going around? What is it?
I mean, there are definitely some notorious players that are, I guess, bigger name patent trolls maybe, but I think part of it, as Seth was talking about shell companies, that's part of the thing, is you don't always really know who's behind it. So, so it does make it, pretty difficult to get a feel for, who is actually doing this.
Okay, do they actually own these patents? That's the other question.
They own some patents. They typically buy the patents. And there are, cases where companies that really do invent things will put their patents up for sale. They're going out of business or some other situation. And so a lot of these companies really do buy patents, but they didn't invent the thing. Yeah. They're not doing anything with it. They don't have a product that they're selling based on that patent. They just bought it almost as an investment that they could then sue on. Yeah, because don't some of these patents, Seth, eventually run out because the product has become so ubiquitous, whatever it is, that it's not special anymore.
Totally, and most patents, depends on the industry, but have a life cycle of about 20 years. And one thing that often gets confused in patent troll conversations is that patents themselves are actually very good. Right? The patent system is a very noble idea to give inventors a limited right for a limited amount of time to their invention, but they have to catalog it. They have to explain it so that human knowledge is essentially categorized and people can build on it in the future. They get 20 years to use it, but then it's public domain. And as these do run out, they become less dangerous. Where it gets twisted is when a patent troll buys a patent, they generally can expand it further and further to the point where it's not really meaningful, where some patents would patent human language, for example. And then they said, look, of course the patent's invalid, but it's going to cost you $1.5 million to prove it. And that's where the system starts to get abused.
Have any restaurant groups or stores or technologies groups started combining their forces to fight these people off, Kyle? Do you know?
It seems like that's starting to happen. I mean, just this week there was a lot of testimony before Congress from some big name venture capitalists and some other folks have been starting to it seems like it's reaching a boiling point where a lot of people are talking about this. We heard the testimony earlier from the EMC executive. So it does. I'm hearing way more about it now.
60 minutes on this. Yeah. We've got to find out who these people are. This is,
Yeah.
I'm outraged on your behalf.
Yeah, it's a major issue. I mean, Level Up is a well-funded company, so we've been able to fight it off. But I have a number of friends who run technology companies that aren't as well funded, and some of them have had to shut down.
Did they know it was coming? Did they see it coming?
It comes out of the blue, and it's almost impossible to defend against. We actually got another patent troll reaching out to us this week, and under the current law, they don't actually have to even say how you might infringe.
Yeah.
So their letter literally says, we are this entity, we believe you may infringe, we demand all this list of discovery. And then we say, well, tell us how you think we infringe. And they say, no, we don't have to.
Yeah.
They actually have more rights protections than we do. It's a little nuts.
All right. Well, good luck with this.
Thank you.
Seth Pribent, Kyle Alsbeck, thank you so much. Great story.